and there's a car in front of me, and there's a car in front of that car, and we're sort of just jammed up, but no big deal. And then out of the corner of my left eye, I see a shopping cart coming down the parking lot. And I see it, and I'm thinking, like, I got to think quick here. And I'm thinking, okay, it's not going to hit my car, but it is probably going to hit this guy in front of me's car. And so I'm thinking, should I get out and maybe try to stop it? Or, what if I try and I don't get there in time, and then I'm probably going to look like a fool? A lot of things ran through my head. And then finally I decided I can't let this happen. So I'm just about to get out of my car when the shopping cart slams into this guy's car, like right into the driver's side door. And luckily there wasn't a lot of damage. I kind of felt bad for the guy. I hate to think what might have happened if I wasn't there. Okay, good story. Just terrible, terrible, terrible. Okay, let's go ahead and get back to it here. What I'm going to do is add our fantastic particular plugin. So I'm going to choose Effect, Trapcode, Particular. And no, this plugin doesn't come with After Effects, but if you want to create cool things, sometimes you need a cool plugin. So here's sort of the default level that creates these great particles. And what I'm going to do is shut off our null objects and rename our layer Particles. And what we're going to do is go into the emitter options. Let's see here. And we're going to bring the particles a second up to like 500. We're going to turn the velocity down to 0, the random velocity down to 0, and the random motion from velocity down to 0 also. So 0, 0, 0. And then I'm going to create a 3D camera. So new camera. Looks good. We'll go 35 millimeter. Okay. So now we have our one little particle there that's just sticking there because we don't have any velocity. And what we're going to do is use our audio data to drive the position of this particle. And we're going to drive the z-axis, which means forward and back. And what we'll do is bring up the keyframes for the treble, hit U, here they are, and then I'm going to go and alt-click on the Z position. And that brings up our expression for that particular parameter. And I'm going to take the pick whip, and we'll go down a bit, and we'll pick whip to our treble slider that we've added our linear expression to. It adds it, and then we're going to click away. And now, I'll go ahead and shut that, and let's see what the value does for the position of the particles. So, kind of scrub through here. Now you can see the value is changing. But nothing's really happening here because the particles are just sticking there. So what I'm going to do is take the Orbit Camera tool, and this allows us to orbit our camera around. I'm going to click and drag to the left. So you can see we have sort of these 3D particles that are sort of in a straight line. And if I look at the animation, you can see they sort of move back and forth. We want it to look a little bit nicer than that. So what we're going to do is turn the velocity from the motion up. Maybe 50. And what that does is when the particle gets thrown, it sort of keeps traveling. So now we'll come down to the particle life, and we'll change that to about 1. So now you can see a little bit more what's happening is when the particles are thrown, they keep traveling in those directions. So next thing we'll do is come down to the physics for the particles. This is sort of like air and all that stuff. And we'll go to the air option, down to the turbulent field. And this is sort of a fancy way of saying to displace the particles sort of randomly in a sense. And what I'm going to do is change the effect position and move that value up. So now you can see the particles start taking on this really unique form. And we can also affect the size of the particles. So some are big and some are small. We'll set that to 5. And we'll go ahead and move back up here. We'll change the color of the particle to like a light blue and the transfer mode to add. Looks kind of nice. change the size of the particle down to about 4 and the opacity down also. And the reason we're going to turn the opacity down is because we're going to turn up the particles per second. And we'll hold down shift and we're going to drag this until it fills in. So maybe even a little bit more than that. And then we'll go back down and let's bring the opacity down even more. And the size down even. This is an HD comp. So that looks pretty good. And we'll see what our other settings look like. Maybe change the position up even more. And so that creates a pretty unique effect. And then we'll go down to the particle size over life. So the life of the particle is 1 second, and we want them to start out large and shrink down. So that's sort of the idea here. Now let's make the life a little bit longer, 1.5 maybe. And the size, I'll turn it up just a little bit so we can see it a bit more. And again, we'll increase the particles, and you hold down shift and you can just keep dragging that. Basically, you want it to kind of fill in the gaps there. So, but essentially that's the idea right there. And now the other thing we can do is increase the velocity from motion. And what that's going to do is sort of let the particles flow together, and it'll make it look like the particles are shooting out like energy with the beat. So I'll come back down. Maybe we'll make the effect position a little bit higher. And at any time, we can also go back into the treble and go into our expression and remap the value. Maybe we want it to be a bit stronger. So now if we change this to 800, the power of this is going to turn up, but then we'll also need to turn up the particles. But I think we'll go and just set it to 700. And then we'll go back to the particles, increase the particles, and again, increase the opacity so that we can see it a little bit better. So let's try 10. So, okay, that's looking pretty good. Not perfect, but I think we're going to need a lot more particles in order to fill that in. So for now, we'll go ahead and go with that. And let's go and just take a look at what this is creating for us. So I'm just going to RAM preview. Okay, so you get the basic idea. It's sort of pushing the particles, and the particles are inheriting the velocity from the music. So a little different way of kind of creating an animation. Now, we're going to do one more thing, and we're going to duplicate the particles that we've created. So that's the end of the particle part of the tutorial. Now we'll play with it a little more, but I'm going to duplicate this, edit, duplicate. And to this particle system, we're going to just make a few changes. We're going to change the color to green. And we're going to change the expression. So we'll hit U. And we're going to change the expression to look at, instead of the treble layer, we're going to change the name of the layer to bass. So remember, these are exactly the same, so I'm just going to change the name. And so now it's going to make the animation based on the bass instead of the treble. Now, we want to sort of make this look a little bit more unique. So we'll go in here and we'll increase the effect position. And we'll change the octave. And that's sort of the frequency. And we'll change that to 2. So I'm going to change the scale to about 2. And so that kind of creates a little bit more random effect here. So now if we sort of scrub through it, you can see that these both sort of, play off of each other. Okay, now from this frame, we can see the blue kind of goes into the right and the green goes into the left. And the reason for that is because if we go to the bass channel, we've added an expression times -1. We've reversed that expression, so now the particles are being thrown more in that direction. So as you can see, it sort of goes with the music, and I created an example earlier, and then we have our early example from the beginning. You can choose any of these colors that you would like to use, and so I just kind of created a comp here. NBC Universal. Now these titles are actually all in HD, and I made one for Comedy Central also, and they animate. Check it out. Pretty cool. I'll even put this project file up, so use it. Send me a link. I'll show my wife. All right, I don't know how long this tutorial is, but it feels like it was a pretty long one. So anyway, I'm going to cut this thing out right now, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Don't forget to check out the webpage, the blog. Of course, go check out our DVDs, and I'll see you guys next time. But wait, there's a little bit more. I just wanted to show you how to create an animated waveform, just in case you were looking to do that. So what you do is put your music onto your comp, create a new solid, and then choose Effect, Generate, or Render Audio Waveform. And what it allows you to do is select your audio file, and then it creates a rendering of your waveform. And you can change the color. Let's see. And the size. Just play with the settings. They make sense. If you want a longer duration, just increase that value. You can increase the samples and the thickness and the height of the waveform. And it will render it out for you. You can also select some of these other options like digital audio here. It's for the more high-tech era. And some dots. There you go.